or even good evening. It's now 7 o'clock and I would like to start the meeting of the Audit Committee. My name is Councillor Croom and I am your chair. I would like to remind everyone present that this meeting is being recorded and uploaded to the council website. Can I just hand over to Dawn for a quick comment on training?
Thank you, Councillor Croom. I thought it would just be quite helpful, as this is our first, the first audit committee with obviously a lot of with all new membership, that might just mention a little bit about training. So obviously just before this committee tonight, we've had a sort of very high level start of 10 training about what the role of internal audit and what the role of the audit committee is. And you've got your evaluation sheets. We'll be evaluating that, but obviously anything you have to say would be gratefully, we'd really appreciate that. What we have got on, but obviously what we have got on the, what we will also have to do is we will have to do over a period of, over an agreed period of time, is training on very specific items that will be coming to the audit committee. Now, obviously, we have some agenda items on the committee tonight that obviously is a new committee. You obviously will not have seen these before, but these are coming tonight for you to note. So what I just wanted to do is give you assurance that by the time, and colleagues will explain where they're coming back, by the time those items come back to the audit committee, we'll have done our very specific training with you so that you understand what these items are, your role is, etc. So when they come back for agreement, that you will feel more confident around that. And also what we are going to be doing, so with my colleagues Helen in legal, David and myself, we are going to go through the current audit committee plan. So when agenda items are coming to the committee, we're going to review that, make sure that things are coming back at the correct time, and then once we've reviewed that, we will immediately put together what we would think will be quite a helpful training plan on those very specific items. So it will be risk, fraud, there'll be Helen's AGS, will be the statement of accounts. We will put that together and we will liaise with the chair and about how we think that will be helpful to do that. So we will be doing the training over a period of time geared towards when those items are due to come back to the audit committee, so that we do it over a period of time, so we're not trying to load up with too much information at the time. And we will also, intention is to always have an informal training session before the audit committee, and we will be thinking about what would be helpful to bring back to those sessions as well. So I just thought it might be helpful just to cover that, because obviously it's the first as the first meeting of the committee, there are some things on here, but for tonight they're just for noting, and then obviously we'll make sure we will do that training programme and we'll liaise via the chair to make sure that when they come back for agreement you feel comfortable with what you're being presented with. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Dawn. Can I move to item number 1? Apologies for absence. I've certainly had one from Jack Fuller. I don't know whether you've got any others.
No, that's
Rhiannon.
it. Thank you.
Item number 2, the minutes. I move that the minutes of the previous Audit Committee meeting held on the 3rd of March 2026 are noted. We are unable to approve these minutes as correct, as none of us were actually present at the previous meeting. Does any member have any comments on the minutes? I've just got one question, if I may. There was some actions as part of those previous minutes. Do we normally follow up on those actions when we review the minutes?
Sorry, Chair, we should be making sure that we follow up on those actions for you. So we will go through them and make sure that they're followed up, Chair.
Thank you. Does any member have any other comments? No. If we've got no amendments, the minutes are noted. Item number 3, declarations of interest. Does anyone wish to declare a declaration of interest? I take it silence is golden. Thank you for that. Moving on to item number 4, annual report and head of internal audit opinion. Can I ask Satinder Jazz to present this item, please?
Thank you, Chair. So if it's okay, I'll present the Head of Internal Audit opinion, and one of my former colleagues will present the annual report. Hopefully everybody's seen there was a revised version of the Head of Internal Audit opinion that was published on the website. If you haven't, that's absolutely fine. The paper copy you have only has minor amendments to it, so it shouldn't digress from anything, but I will highlight a couple of the key areas. So I'm pleased to note that for the first time in a few years, we've been able to provide Thurrock Council with a Head of Internal Audit opinion. We completed an audit of 20 audits for that, and we provided assurance of limited assurance. That's if you ranked it from 1 to 4, that's a number of 3, 1 being the best. That was based on the fact that although there were improvements made, a significant number of the audits identified governance, process and controls issues that still require cultural change and also embedding across the organisation. I have provided detail of that as part of the opinion. I was going to take it as read. However, the only other area I was planning on flagging was that the council has demonstrated, that it is moving towards a stronger governance, process and risk-based culture overall. And if it continues on this path, hopefully the assurance level should increase. And finally, it's worth noting, one of the reports that was provided at the previous audit committee flagged where there were overdue recommendations, which is generally a key concern, showing management's lack of accountability. From my understanding of the papers today, that has not occurred, so that shows a continuous positive improvement. Happy to pause and take any questions on that.
Satinder, could I just ask, because we've got a new audit committee here tonight, could I ask you to go through your annual report and just explain what audit work has been done, and so that members understand the work that has been done during the year to form your opinion. Is that okay? Just because we've got new members here tonight, if that's okay, Chair?
Yes, certainly.
Of course, not a problem. So to give you the context of it, how it works is we have to follow the global internal audit standards. As part of that, there is a public sector note that's provided to link them to the public sector environment in total. The key areas you should look at are something in financial controls, something in governance, and something in risk. What we've done, we did 20 reports, and these are flexible depending on the level of risk, the types of risk, and emerging issues throughout the year. We detailed the 20 reports that were completed in 25-26. The key ones to note are there was one report which received no assurance, and that was related to a historic agreement that the council made with a company called FI. The council have moved away from that arrangement, but it formed the opinion because it was active in that year. Now, when you look at the assurance that I gained, so I don't just look at the audits that we do. We also look at any external reviews, any other internal reviews we discuss with management. It also feeds into the AGS, so I believe that's on the agenda today. So you will see that the annual governance statement will also relay some of the concerns that we identified, and hopefully have a support. It does have a supporting plan over how the council is strengthening that governance, risk and control framework. The core areas that you would generally review as part of the internal audit opinion would be governance, risk and performance, as I mentioned. We also look at key areas such as information governance, cyber IT, and fraud. Now, fraud, although we review it, and IT we review it, we do bring specialists in when required. So it's not something where we would do a high touch to it. But we did do a report which identified for the council what they could look at for the next 5 years based on a risk level, and that's part of the IT audit needs assessment. So you wouldn't get an assurance for that, but what it will allow you to do is an assessment that we've made with the head of IT over what the council should be focusing on going forward. We also, in 25-26, did a 3-year audit plan. That audit plan is completely changeable, pending any risk that members decide they might want to review, and it's considered as part of management and senior management's risk and emerging issues. And we do it over a period of 500 days, which has contingencies in essence. So if we find some audits require deep dives, we would increase the number of days. If we find that there's other audits that we need to look at above the 20, you can also do that. The council also are able to bring in external sources. All of those were used in 25-26 and form the opinion that we've provided today. Thanks.
Thank you for that. First draft question coming up. Page 17, you've got key factors for the 2025-2026 opinion, and you've got weaknesses in applications. Would it be fair to say that there are ongoing action plans in place as a result of those weaknesses being identified?
Absolutely, that is correct. So the weakness in application is we noted there was inconsistencies in some of the areas that we reviewed in processes and controls. So for where we've identified those, recommendations are raised. However, senior management are aware that this needs to be processed across the council and have action plans in place.
Thank you for that. Do members have any comments or questions?
Just on page 32, there's a number of actions where they had already been delayed and there's going to be follow-ups. And based on the comments, it seems like there's no progress made to date.
Yeah, I will let the new interim head of audit pick that one up, but I believe they've been cleared. Do let me know.
That is actually in a separate report on the agenda, so if that's okay with yourself, we would come to that under that agenda item. Is that okay? Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. That's item 5, I believe, not 4. Have we got any other comments or questions for item 4, which is the internal audit opinion? Can I recommend that the committee is asked to consider and review the report and opinion, and the recommendation is agreed? I'm taking silence as agreement. Thank you. Can we move on to item number 5 now, the internal audit and update report? And I believe Richard Green is going to present that one for us.
Thank you, Chair. And you've got I think you've got the supplementary papers, or which is my report, and the things moved on quite a bit since we actually did that. Recommendations and audit reports is a role in progress in many ways. So what I've done is on slide 1, I've the opening one there, I've said that we've got a summary of the work 25-26 is shown on slide 2. So you've just seen that, but we need to bring it into this report because it's the progress report. There are 2 different reports for 2 different reasons. So this is the progress report. So we show you what we've done in 25-26. And as Satinder said, there were 20 audits planned in 25-26. We deferred 4. But we put 4 other ones back in, 2 assurance pieces of work and 2 new reviewers and 2 assurance. So we still did the 20 within the number of days. And I show you there the breakdown. We started with 20, took 2 out, took 2 out, added 2, took 4 out, back to 20 again. And I've shown you there the ones that have been added in and deferred. The ones that have been deferred are carried forward to this year and are being looked at as part of this year's plan, just to prove that we don't just take things out willy-nilly. On the next slide, I just reiterate what we've done on the 25-26 plan, and you'll see there that, as Atinder said, there's just that one no assurance. The rest is looking sort of amber going towards blue, and from my perspective, that looks very positive that we've got that mix and we've got more blue. Very often in councils that are trying to move forward out of the change that's going on, we'd see a lot more limited in there, but we've got quite a few blue ones in there, which is quite pleasing. Then we move on to what's happening at the moment with the recommendations on the next page. Yes, there were some outstanding, and the ones of you who looked at the initial pack, you will have seen some outstanding recommendations. As I say, we work on those hard. We've managed to get those down now, so there's no outstanding. We look for evidence to prove that that work has been done, and we will not accept someone's word that it's been done. We need the actual document, the piece of paper, the policy, or proof that the policy's gone through. So a few of them were just waiting for those nice little extras to be done, and when we went back to them and said, look, we need that now, they provided it. Particularly when you say, if you don't provide it, you may have to come to the audit committee and explain why it hasn't been done. It's a good way of getting them to move. So as it stands, as it stood the other day, we had no outstanding recommendations. We've now hit the 30th of the month. So actually, today we've got a few that are outstanding, but we'll be chasing those during the week, and I guarantee by Monday they'll be back as completed. Or other action taken. So we try to keep it as clean as we can, but obviously if we produce a report at a certain point in the month, we probably will have outstanding. By the end of the month, we'll have cleared them, and it is that rolling process. And of course, the other problem is, as we do a report, recommendations come onto the table. We can't avoid that. So we are hitting a moving target. And on the final page there, I've given you where we are against the 26-27 plan. It has moved on since, again, it's moved on. You'll be getting 2 or 3 audit reports at the next meeting, because we've just finalised the flood management one today. We've got planning going on with quite a few audits that are not showing on there. And we've got field work on the planning and Section 106 agreements. And we've got field work going on the digital transformation now. So it's moving all the time. This is really a snapshot at a particular point in time, but it does move on. But that's where we are with this. And as Dawn mentioned, what we'd like to do, and I'm sure what Priya would like to do, is come back to the audit committee in the next meeting and say, right, can we suggest we tweak the plan a little bit, bring more into the operations. We've got the new internal audit manager is coming in, so we'll have a more settled workforce, and we hope that we'll be able to add some extra reviews in out of that contingency pot we've got. So that really is where we are at the moment, and I say it's progressing.
Can I just add?
Certainly, Helen.
So I thought it would just thank you. So I thought it would just maybe helpful to provide a little bit of context, as it's a new audit committee. So internal audit was quite a significant area of the intervention, and so we have struggled in the past to get a full completed audit programme completed. So when we set the audit programme for last year, we set 20 audits with the aim of we must get those audits done. So this is really, in terms of progress, this is really good progress that we've got that audit programme completed for 25-26, and we've been able to provide a head of internal audit opinion, which the council wasn't able to do for the last few years. And I won't cover too much about that because my colleague Helen's going to cover that when she does her AGS. What we now need to do is, as we've explained, we've got a new head of internal audit coming in July, and obviously what we will be doing is we'll be reviewing this audit plan. And we'll be, because we should review the audit plan regularly, we'll be coming back to the committee, and obviously now we've got this audit plan completed, it will be now looking at, do we need to do any, can we increase our number of audits, etc., to provide further assurance. So that's what we will be bringing back to the committee.
Thank you, Dawn. Second daft question. The internal audit update you've got on page 30, the outstanding actions that you mentioned, would that be possible to actually zone down to the audits that have been performed and the actions outstanding against each of those audits? if that makes sense.
I can certainly provide that for you. We have an audit recommendation tracker spreadsheet which is constantly updated. We update it. The auditees don't update it. We update it. But there is that constant dialogue going on recommendations. There was a meeting of SLT, and I sent reminders out to every director. Well, not every director, but most directors. And that prompted the action, and that's where we got the evidence back. But say some of them we were just literally waiting for proof that a policy had been implemented. That was it.
Right.
But we will not accept it without having that policy. But I'll bring that. I can circulate that outside the meeting.
Thank you. Dawn?
You'll probably be fed up with me after tonight, but it's quite helpful with you being a new audit committee. So what you will get and what we did for the whole of the last audit committee, is you will get an update every quarter, so to every audit committee, and it will show you the progress of the plan, it will show you the position on the recommendations, and it will be very clear on what recommendations have been, the number of recommendations per audit and what have been actioned. There will always be a period, so when we do a recommendation, there will be a date given for when that recommendation needs to be done by. Some are quite quick, some might take more planning, but you will be fully updated at every audit committee in terms of where we are with those recommendations. One of the key things of the intervention was that the audit committee was not chasing up on the recommendations. That's really, really important. It's an area that we're significantly improving on, and we need to provide you assurance that you'll be getting that. So you will get that update to every audit committee. What you will also do as well is we bring all the completed audit reports, regardless of their assurance levels, to each audit committee. So you'll have a chance to read the reports, the recommendations that we're making, the follow-ups, and we also make sure that we get the service colleagues where those audit reports fall into, to come along to the audit committee, so you can ask, challenge, question those services to make sure that you're happy in terms of the audit work that's been done and the actions that they're taking.
That's great, thank you. And just on a similar vein, you've got the update on page 34. Would that be possible to have a RAG status against that at some point? Just so we can see a summary of all the audits that are going on for the particular year, and then obviously they're not all going to start at the same date. So, you know, started, in progress, late, that kind of thing.
Yeah, we have that in a huge spreadsheet again, so we track everything. There is a word for it, but we are very mindful that we need to track everything, make sure that it's we have to evidence as much as we expect our clients to evidence things, probably more so. So yes, we have spreadsheets tracking everything. We also use a system called Teammate, which it's all on there as well. So I can produce reports on when something was done, when it wasn't done, who did it, how they did it. It's all there. So whatever information you require, we can probably produce it.
It's really so what we will do is you will get an update, but it's very helpful that we will make sure that what you're asking for, when we bring the next update to the audit committee, we'll make sure it's all incorporated in there. And what's quite helpful, as you are a new committee, if you have a look at that update, if you think it doesn't tell you what you want to know, you can't understand it, you would like more detail, please do feed that back to us, and we'll make sure that the updates that come to every audit committee what you need.
That's great. Thank you, Dawn. Sorry, I've hogged the limelight on there. Do members have any comments or questions on Richard's report?
No, nothing from me.
All right, okay. For the reasons set out in this report, the committee's recommended to review the progress to date against the plan and review the plan and consider if there are any challenges or amendments required. I think we're concluding that the recommendations are agreed. Thank you, everyone. Move on to item number 6, statement of accounts. Can I ask John Clarence Chance, my apologies, to present this report, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Delighted to present the statement of accounts in draft for the year 25-26. And I will add that today is the 30th of June, and that is the deadline the government set for publishing the unaudited statement of accounts, and we've met that deadline. So in other years, we might have been saying once you've agreed it, we would publish it, but we're asking you to note tonight. So the accounts are published, not ostensibly different from last week, just made to look a little bit better and presentationally a little bit better than the one you have in the pack. So I'll talk you through the main issues of it. This is the sort of local government convention, the production of a statement of accounts, and the idea is uniformity up and down the country, with some 300-400 authorities producing these documents in a similar format for comparative purposes. So it sticks with the Accounting Code of Practice, underpinned by CIPFA, the Chartered Institute of Public Finance of Accountancy, of which I'm a member, and so are the people next to me here. So it's about sticking to accounting convention. The year is complete in its entirety, so there's an outturn arrangement that we've got, and we've taken that and we've put it into the formats that we require. And essentially, there's a bit of narrative report to start with, which sets the scene, talks about the corporate and improvement plan, talks about risks, talks about statistics in the borough, that sort of stuff. Dawn could put pretty much anything she wished in that area, and that may be reviewed going forward. But it's fairly brief. It's the first few pages. And then we're really into the nitty-gritty. So there's 4 core statements. There's the balance sheet, the income and expenditure analysis, there's the movement in reserves, and there's the cash flow. And of course, you'll see a multitude of other notes that accompany these statements that back up and underpin and give you more information. But of course, we did say earlier that we haven't actually given you formal training yet on the statement of accounts, so it's kind of chicken and egg really here, because you may or may not have lots of questions, or you may wish to keep your powder dry until we've discussed it in more detail. And as we're asking you to note, I'll leave it entirely up to you. Our co-opted members may have seen these sorts of things before and may have some questions, and of course we will take note of all your questions, and I'll try to answer them immediately. If you say to me, what's that figure on page 99, I may well have to come back to you, because of course it's a 120 page document. It's got an awful lot of information in it, and it's taken us a while to pull it all together. It's in a very good condition. It all balances, and the Ernst & Young will be pleased, and they will check, I'm sure, that we've published on the 30th of June. And they will grab those accounts and start some work on them soon, we hope. And in the fullness of time, before the end of January, they will begin and complete a formal audit of the accounts. And one final thing, we also have to, by statute, open the accounts up for inspection. So you always worry that you may get all and sundry out there in society asking questions about the accounts, and they can come here and get copies if they wish. It's all in the letter on the website, and I think Rhiannon will give you that link in the minutes. But of course, you can always contact me at any point and ask any more specific questions about the contents of the accounts, and we will do our best to drill in and answer them for you. Normal sort of email address for myself, john.chance@thurrock.gov.uk, etc. So there we are, really. That's sort of a précis about where we are with the position. And there may be some questions, some technical questions, or we'll see how it goes. I'll leave it to you.
How long will be open for inspection?
30 working days. So as of the 1st of July, tomorrow, the accounts are open for public inspection until I think it was the 11th of August, 30 working days, after which we can relax. But in my experience, I shouldn't tempt fate, you don't tend to get too many, but you never know. You never know. People are given an email address to reply to, a generic one. It's not just me, because I may be out of the country some of that time before the 11th of August. But there we go. So public inspections open. People can write directly to Stephen Reed, the head of Ernst & Young Audit for us, or they can write to Dawn, or they could write to me directly. It's all open and transparent. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Can I start Sorry, David.
So I was just going to say a couple of things. So EY Ernst Young are our external auditor. They were due to be here this evening. Unfortunately, the partner has been taken ill, and so he's not able to attend. But they would normally attend future meetings. And not to contradict John, but I would say that we welcome public inspection, and if people want to come and to view our accounts, then we'd be very happy to answer any questions they have.
Very glad to hear that. Can I start off on page 38? There's a couple of residual amber risks after a whole load of mitigations. Are we comfortable with that amber risk after all the mitigations that have been applied?
I think so. It would be perhaps too overconfident to put them all at green, because there could be something. When we're talking about multi-million, hundreds of millions of pounds, etc., and application and assumptions and things, there's estimates in the accounts, etc., we couldn't, hand on heart, say that we've done everything to mitigate. So I think it's fair to say that we've got it to amber. We wouldn't want any reds, and we've done these mitigations to get us to a fair point where we can say with all assurance that we've done everything we can to get a decent set of accounts provided for you, compiled.
Thank you. Could I also ask you a question on page 51? There's a few risks and opportunities. I note that there's a new risk management system that's now in use. Are all of these risks in that system?
Yes, I'm sure we'll be covering those with Richard's work in the future, but they are.
Thank you for that. Can I now open it up to the floor? Do any members have any comments or questions on the draft set of accounts?
Thank you. Have EY confirmed dates when they were coming out to carry out the audit?
Dave.
We're due to meet with representatives of EY next week to talk about the scale of the audit plan that they're having, and then we'll report that back to the next committee. But we meet with them next week. We're very keen to have as full an audit programme from them as we can, but we will share that plan as soon as possible. We have to acknowledge where we are in terms of the number of years outstanding accounts that have been. We're hopeful they will be signed off by BDO, our previous auditor, by the end of September, and then EY can start doing some work. But they've got some catch-up work to do. But we are very keen that we agree the scale of audit that they will be doing for the 25-26 accounts. But we'll talk about that more at the next meeting when we'll come back with an external audit update report.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. Any more comments or questions on the statement of accounts?
Just following up on that, can I just confirm that it's my understanding that these accounts are probably, I've seen in some parts where there are some restated figures. Those are subject to a BDO audit, so those are still not final.
Until BDO finally sign up all their accounts and then EY do some due diligence in terms of taking on accounts, all these figures are likely to change. Do we think the 25-26 ones are robust? Yes, we do. But we won't be tested on that until we actually EY come in and we agree the audit plan. We'll talk about that more at the next meeting, because the history that members will not be aware of is that EY will not be completing a full audit on the 25-26 accounts. They will not be able to do that because of the time that's available to them and the fact the audits from the previous years have not been signed off. So our work with them is to establish a programme of work that will get us to a full audit of our accounts as soon as possible. But we will share that in more detail with the committee when we come back next time.
Is it worth just explaining about BDO why we've got to?
Oh, sorry, Dawn points out the main reason for the delay, actually the single reason for the delay in the accounts not being signed off was because there was an objection raised in the 2021 accounts, and that has taken a number of years to work through. That's involved getting KC and probably QC advice beforehand. We are confident now that BDO will be addressing that within the next month, and that will then trigger the amount of work that they can do by the end of September to actually complete all the work they need to do and then hand on to EY.
So it's quite I can obviously see it's quite a complicated. I can see, you know, it's quite complicated. What we will do is when we do our next, when we come to the next audit committee, we've been providing regular updates in terms of the progress of trying to close down our audit work with BDO. So that's our previous external auditors. And then, like David said, we can really focus with our new external auditors, EY, and our aim, and as I say, it's helpful that David's meeting with them next week, and John, is by the time we move into our new unitary arrangement for local government reorganisation, we want to be towards as full assurance as we can get from an external audit. So what external audit process. So what we will do is, when we come to the committee next time, we'll provide a bit more substance around why we are still in this interim position. And as part of your training will be part of that training will include training from EY as well, so we can cover that in a lot more depth there.
That's great. Thank you, Dawn. Last call for comments on item number 6. For the reasons set out in this report, Audit Committee are recommended to note the draft statement of accounts for 2025-2026 and approve its submission for public inspection. Is the recommendation agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. We'll move on to item number 7, the annual governance statement. Can I ask Helen Nichol to present this report, please?
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, Committee. So I have a report that accompanies the draft annual governance statement for 2025-2026. So this covers the period 1st of April 2025 to the 31st of March 2026. This report's asking you to do 2 things. So to note the contents of the draft annual governance statement, and also to provide any comment about how the committee would like to review the action plan that is contained within the annual governance statement going forward. But first, I thought it'd be helpful just to give you a bit of a background as to what the annual governance statement is, because I appreciate this is the first time this has come before this committee. So it comes before you in a draft format, and it's part of the package of documents that accompany the draft statement of accounts. It's a regulatory requirement that the Council, for each financial year, reviews its governance requirements. And the way that we do this, and the way that the majority of local authorities do this, is by producing this AGS document. It's a key document, and essentially what it does is it wants to aim to provide reasonable assurance to the Council and also the Council stakeholders that processes and systems are in place and have been established, and to ensure that decisions are made properly, and also, most importantly, the public money is being spent economically and effectively. As I said, it's in draft with you this evening, and then the intention is that it will be returned to you in the autumn in its finalised format, together with forewords from the Chief Executive and also the leader, should he wish to add one, although we are minded that, given the elections, the annual governance statement covers a period in which the leader, and indeed the majority of councillors in this authority, were not yet elected. But it may be that the leader wants to have a forward look about intentions for the administration in terms of how they're going to approach governance going forward. So taking you to some of the key elements of the document. So it's produced in line with the CIPFA and SOLIS framework. So CIPFA, as John has already told you, and I'm going to try and get this acronym right, is the Chartered Institute of Public Finance Accountants, and also SOLIS, which is a leading local government membership body. And so they produced in 2016 a set of principles about delivering good governance in local authorities, and these were updated and strengthened in May 2025, particularly as a result of councils like Thurrock going into intervention proceedings. So if you turn to page 171, you'll see at the top of the page set out elements A to G, and these are the elements that CIPFA say together create good governance. So you'll see it covers issues like behaving with integrity, having strong commitment to ethical values and respecting the rule of law, ensuring openness and stakeholder engagement, looking at outcomes in terms of sustainable economic, social and environmental benefits, has the authority determined interventions necessary to optimise achievement of intended outcomes, looking at the entity's capacity and the capability of its leadership and the staff members within it, looking at how risks and performance are managed and what the internal controls look like, and also are there good practices in terms of transparency, reporting and audit. So those are the 7 principles that make up good, what SIPA says make up good governance, and we have structured the annual governance statement around those principles. So when you go into the narrative of it, you'll see that it's structured A to G to match those principles. Also, our co-opted members will probably remember and see it as a new addition to the annual governance statement this year, and it's directly as a result of the changes that were made in May 2025, and that's the table that appears from pages 171 to 174 of your pack, which is essentially a summary of significant strengths and weaknesses. So again, for each of those A to G areas, we've pulled out where there are things that the council is doing particularly well, but also recognising where there are improvements to be made and where there are weaknesses. And those weaknesses then track through and form the action plan, which is at the end of the document at pages 205 to 207 of the pack. I won't go through the contents in detail, although of course I'm very happy to take any questions that the committee might have for me. I will say that the substantive information that is contained within the narrative of this document has been, there's been engagement across the organisation in order to populate the information. So we've reached out to relevant departments to get the correct officers, making sure that they can inform the areas that relate to them. And also there's been obviously input and leadership on it from myself in relation to legal and governance, but from colleagues in finance and the policy team. And also we've used the improved corporate performance reporting that's taken place over the last year or so as well to directly inform the contents here. So as I say, very happy to take any questions that might arise as a result of this, or if you need anything further explained about the preparation of the AGS. Otherwise, as I said, it would be really helpful to have a discussion with the committee about the action plan that appears at page 205 to 207, and get some input from you as to how you want those actions to be brought back to you. Certainly with the audit committee last year, that was something that there was a discussion on, and so we brought a paper back, I think it was in March last year, to the previous audit committee, which then tracked activity and outcomes against those actions that had been recommended. That hadn't been done in previous years, and I think it's fair to say as well, like with the statement of accounts, that the history has been challenging. And again, our co-opted members, I'm sure, will remember that we had to do a bit of a recovery exercise in relation to the annual governance statements in previous years, bringing a raft of AGSs from 2020 to 2021 to 2022, 2023, because there just hadn't been any during that period. So I'm really pleased to be presenting this to you tonight on the same evening that you're seeing the draft statement of accounts, as we try and get things back into the rhythm that they're meant to be in, which is that they come before you with the statement of accounts. But it would be really helpful to understand how you'd like to track those actions that are identified. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Can I ask you one specific question? On page 169, there's mention of a strategic transformation partner, but no mention of who that is. Is that confidential or is common knowledge? And I'm just not aware of it.
I believe that there's been public announcement around that. I'm just looking to colleagues.
I'm not sure if there's been a public announcement about the name of the transformation partner, so we maybe just need to take that back and confirm by email. Yeah,
it's certainly been going through. There's been a proper procurement process that has been gone through, and a decision to award has been made. Whether that is public yet, but Chair, if I could take that away, I will find out the answer to that. And if it can be disclosed, then I'm very happy to email you and all members of the committee so you're aware of who that is.
Okay, thank you. I just saw it mentioned in there and I thought, I'm not aware of anything being announced on that one. And just one other one from me. Your action plan that you referred to on 205, there's a bit about develop an action relating to finance improvement. Have we got any dates when that's going to start? Right at the bottom of page 205.
I'm going to hand over to my finance colleagues to answer that one.
Thanks, Helen. So what we've got to do is we have, as part of the ongoing recovery of the council's finances, we have to work on a finance improvement plan. So we've made huge steps forward, both as the finances of the council and as a finance function, and it's very helpful that in the commissioner reports that have been published that they do recognise that improvement. But what we need to do is, and we are working on this, and now we've got all these accounts out of the way, we can finalise this and we can bring it back to the audit committee, is it's very much about a finance improvement plan. So it's really us just documenting what's left for us to do. Now there is one key thing on there that that will be it's the, as Helen mentioned, CIPFA, so the Chartered Institute of Public Finance and Management Accounts. We have to do a self-assessment. So CIPFA release a document about the standards that we need to comply to. We have to assess ourselves against those standards, and we need to then say where are we compliant, where are we not compliant, and how are we going to get to that level of compliance. Now, we did an initial self-assessment against that last year, but we admitted that we had we perhaps needed to redo that. So we have redone that initial self-assessment, and what we are now doing is working through the areas where we need to improve. We need to improve our compliance. It's what all authorities do, so it's not something that's unique to Thurrock. There will be some areas where we're doing well on, but it's really important that we reflect and make sure that the areas where we're not fully compliant, what can we do to get towards full compliance. There might be some areas that we cannot get to full compliance, but we will be making sure we do everything we can, and we'll be bringing that back to the audit committee. So that is now we've got the budget out of the way and the statement of accounts. It'll be something that David and I are very much focused on, and we can bring that back. What we will also include, because that's an area that's very much Denise is involved in as commissioners, but what we are also doing as well, which I think is good practice, and it will be picked up part through the self-assessment, but we're just making sure we've been through a year of budget monitoring, we've just been through the outturn process, and we will be picking up things that we think that we still need to do. So we need to tidy up our risk register. We need to, our own finance risk register. We need to tidy up the grants register. So there will be things on there that might not come through the SIT for self-assessment, but we're trying to be as honest as we can about where we still need to do some improvement. We need to have, we've had suddenly in finance, we've just done our 5th recruitment round, so we've had another influx of I think another 9 new people. So we'll see some permanent staff come in, we'll see agency staff exit. We've got to do a lot of training around that. To make sure that our new people are really trained. That will be on our improvement plan as well. So it'll be a mixture of what we need to do to assess ourselves against the SIT for self-assessment on the good financial management and practice, but it'll be the things that we just need to, that might not come through that, but we need to do as well. So that is in hand, and we will make sure that that comes back to the audit committee.
That's great. Thank you, Dawn. Can I throw it open to members for any comments or questions? Thank you.
Sorry, just going back down to that finance improvement plan. What's the timeline for that coming back?
So what we will do, we are looking to maybe put an extra audit committee in September. We'll bring it back by the autumn. So I think we're looking maybe to put an extra committee in September, and there's one in for October, so we will say October at the latest.
Thank you, Dawn.
Sorry, Chair. Adding to that, there were quite a few existing AGS from previous statements that are still outstanding. Are all of those going to be covered by the autumn, or are we still delaying some?
Yeah.
Thank you for that. So what we wanted to do is, obviously there was a report brought to committee in March that included updates against each of those outstanding actions. We didn't just want them to stop there and fall off. So that's why you'll see in the action plan that we have both existing actions that are still being dealt with and being developed and being worked on, as well as those that are introduced as new. And so the final column of the action plan identifies whether they are ones that have come through or whether they are ones that are new. So they relate to ongoing work in relation to contract management, and that obviously also pulls through from the internal audits that Richard's presented on as well this evening. The local plan, for example, which dated back to an action from 2023, 2024, we know there's been a significant amount of work that has been done in the intervening period on that. It was due to go to the executive, I believe, in March, but obviously with the local elections has been put back, but is scheduled to come back to the new cabinet imminently. Dawn has just provided with the update around the management code, and then lastly there's the constitution review. That's been an enormous amount of work, and it would be wrong of me to give you the assurance that that's all going to be completed by the autumn, because I just don't think that is realistic. But again, we are working with the new administration, with the leader and the relevant portfolio holder to work out what an action plan looks like for that going forward. So absolutely in the updates, it might not be that it's completed, but we can absolutely report back to you as to the stages we've reached and with updates against each of those actions.
Thank you, Helen. Any more comments or questions? That's great. Note the comments of the draft annual government statement 25-26 provide any comment regarding how the committee would like to review and have oversight of the actions identified. I don't think we've covered that, but we're in listening mode today, so we may come back to you on that one, Helen.
Chair, if I may, if it would be helpful, as Dawn said, we're looking at scheduling. We have scheduled meetings in the autumn, so I could, if it would be helpful to the committee, just bring back a kind of a report that primarily attaches that table with the actions against those items, if that would be helpful, and perhaps RAG rated as well, and do that in the first instance, see whether that satisfies the committee in terms of the level of detail that you want against those items, or whether there's anything you want exploring in more detail, and then we could perhaps work out what the arrangements for the monitoring looks like from there going forward, if that would help.
Yeah, more detail is always good. Thank you. So are the recommendations for item 7 agreed? Thank you. Last item of the evening, item number 8, the work programme. You'll find that on page 209 of the pack. Do any members wish to comment on the work programme included within the pack?
So will there be another date included for September within this?
Yeah, so what we're going to do is we have been speaking to Rihanna about maybe trying to get another audit committee in, just to, because it's a new committee, make sure that we don't bring too much to each committee. So we're looking at that with Rihanna, and this is what, when I explained excuse me, when I explained earlier on that Helen, David, John and myself were just going to have a review of this, make sure things are coming, make sure we're back into our rhythm of when things need to come. So, for example, the audit committee sees the quarterly update of the risk register. Have we got that planned in at the correct time? We're going to reset this just to make sure. We'll bring it back to the next audit committee saying this is what we're recommending. Might not see any changes, but we thought it doesn't hurt to have a review of that. And then that is what we're going to use to work out the training plan for the committee, so that when things come back to you, so for example, when the AGS and the statement of accounts come back in October, we will have done the training with you to make sure that you feel comfortable and you've been able to ask the questions that you would like to before you're asked to approve those documents. So that's when I talked about that earlier. This is what we're going to have a quick review of.
Yeah, very sensible order of doing things. Can I ask if there's any more comments on the work programme?
Just to follow up on that, sorry, just to add to that, my thought was, would it be helpful to have a separate session on risk, which, given the fact that it has to go through every quarter and it needs to be looked at properly, so it needs probably to be unpacked from the crowded agenda. Yeah.
I think that makes very sense. I think that makes a lot of sense. We will be doing risk training for all members, So we did a couple of sessions last year. So just can I just clarify? Do you mean on the risk register, or do you mean risk in general?
I mean, corporate risk. Yeah.
Thank you. So we have, it is on the member training programme in terms of risk, for all members, but what we will do is when we do our training programme for the risk register, because that is where we will be bringing to you the 12 or so corporate risks for the organisation, what they're rated at, which gets reviewed by SLT every quarter and then comes to the audit committee. We'll do specific training on that as well, so hopefully we will cover everything that you need.
Thank you, Helen. Last call for questions or comments on item number 8. That concludes the business of the meeting this evening, and I now declare the meeting closed at 6:52 according to this clock. 1958. Okay. I think the phone clock's a little wrong, Rhiannon, but thank you for your input, everyone.